appreciate y'all coming. We've got some information that we want to put out and emphasize to the public about some issues we've had, basically with people acting as a vigilante, I guess it's what you would basically say, and looking into doing cases or trying to work potential crimes on their own. And we want to stress to the public the importance for a couple of reasons. Number one, you don't want to take a chance on getting hurt, because you could meet up with somebody, whatever, and get yourself in a position where you could be injured or hurt, or the other person, and maybe there's no crime at all involved in this. But also we want to stress that if this happens, if you're contacted about anything, don't interact as far as trying to go to do something from a case standpoint, from a criminal prosecution standpoint. Contact your local law enforcement agency immediately and let us get on the front end of it, because there's a great chance by you taking that action, you could hinder our evidence in the cases. So that's what we wanted to push out to everybody. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Phil Simpson with our human trafficking unit.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Captain Phil Simpson. I'm with the Tuscaloosa Police Department. I'm assigned as the commander of the Human Trafficking Task Force. We have had an incident here. Due to the ongoing investigation and trying to determine exactly what happened, we cannot release any more information on exactly who or what was involved. This is disturbing because this is something that is very prominent on social media. You can conduct searches and find videos of these people meeting up with who they think is a predator based upon their own style of investigation. Many of these videos result in people being assaulted, people who may or may not be a criminal being very seriously assaulted. If you look at some of these videos, quite a few of these videos, the assaults rise to the level of a felony. This is a huge problem. Like the sheriff alluded to, you may run into somebody that's going to lay the beating on you instead of you laying the beating on them. Also, every time we run an operation where we go after these predators, we always run across a couple of them who are carrying firearms. This raises the danger level to people who are trying to do something good but in the wrong way, but also to members of the general public, because quite often the people who are doing these basically vigilante operations are doing it in public places. And if somebody, an innocent bystander, gets hurt, the person who is trying to do something good could end up having civil or criminal liability based upon that innocent third party getting hurt. There's other serious issues with how they investigate the cases. In the Human Trafficking Task Force, all of the CEOs of the law enforcement agencies here have provided us with very skilled investigators. They've been through a lot of training on how to conduct these operations. We have a lot of experience in conducting these operations, and there are a lot of parameters that we have on our checklists that we have to meet prior to us trying to establish contact. So it's not just something that you can jump on a cell phone and do. There's a lot of court precedents. There is a lot of federal and state laws that govern how these investigations have to be done. And so what happens is it renders us unable to prosecute these that are done like this. We don't like to take that stance, but we have to. You could also end up making yourself the suspect, because if what you have done turns into a felony assault or turns into false imprisonment, turns into a harassment, then you would be liable for what you have done to somebody that you think is a predator. We have seen cases where there was a mistaken identity and the wrong person was attacked and accosted, and we are trying to protect the public. More importantly, we are trying to protect the children. We know what we're doing. It's a very complex kind of investigation, and we do have the experience. We have the track record to show that we know how to do what needs to be done. I'm speaking in very strong terms, because what we do not want to see is some videos popping up from locally here where people are trying to do things they think are good, but turn out costing them or an innocent member of the public some kind of action that they're not ready for. So what can you do? Obviously, there is a huge problem with child predators and people trying to contact our children. Social media and unchecked social media use by juveniles is a huge concern to us at the West Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force. And so we know, research tells us from, I believe it's from NCMEC, one of their studies, that a lot of children are contacted within just a couple of hours of being on the internet. And so if your child or a friend of your child's or somebody that you know is contacted by a predator, make sure you get screenshots of those text messages and then contact your local law enforcement agency immediately, okay? Because they will contact the Human Trafficking Task Force. We have members from every one of the agencies, the county commission, the city councils, the other governing bodies that supply the people that work in the Human Trafficking Task Force have done a good job of making sure that we have very qualified people to do this. We work very closely with the district attorney's office, and we have the ability to go after these people and make a real difference. We can do it right so that they can be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and the actions, the penalties that they need to face, they can face. I am a strong believer in due process, and I believe that just because something that you see looks wrong, there may be other things at play that you don't know about. The last thing that I want to emphasize is that this is a full-time task force. We constantly have investigations going, and I would be really, really upset if we had been spending a lot of time working on a particular predator and somebody messed that up. Okay, so please do not try to conduct these investigations on your own. Please help us protect the children, help us protect the public. If you know somebody is being approached or somebody is being manipulated by somebody who might be a predator, please let us know as soon as possible. Yes, sir.
Captain, is it just one incident you're talking about, or have there been a series of incidents?
We've had several incidents over a couple of years time frame. We've had one recently, and because it has now become such a huge social media trend, that is why we are trying to get ahead of it to try to prevent some serious problems.
Did anybody get hurt in those?
No, sir, nobody got hurt in this one.
What about the previous situation?
Nobody has been hurt here so far in the previous instance.
In the incidences here, were they posted on social media?
This last one was not. I can't speak conclusively on the others.
You mentioned that one of the charges could be assault if someone does get involved. Is there any other charges that could follow from this?
Yes, unlawful imprisonment is a big charge, because if you confine a person unlawfully, then that is the definition of unlawful imprisonment, and you could end up being charged with that crime simply by infringing upon their freedom to move. Harassment charges can be brought. What we're seeing in a lot of these videos are felony level assaults, and that's not insignificant.
You mentioned this being a problem across the country. When it comes to child predators, what are we seeing here in West Alabama specifically? Do you have any numbers?
I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers on the top of my head. We conduct investigations into these all the time. We do several operations a year here in the greater Tuscaloosa area. We work with other agencies outside of our county here in West Alabama, and any other agency that asks for our assistance. We routinely work cases that are generated outside of our operations as well. So it's something that happens regularly. We're just like every other place in America. We're not any worse off than anybody else is.
Have any of your legitimate cases been screwed up because somebody wanted to take it upon themselves to get involved?
That could end up leading to charges for somebody who interfered with that investigation. It would all depend on what the actions were taken, what was done, but they could possibly put themselves in some kind of liability there.
Okay, but any of your legitimate cases that you've been investigating, have they been screwed up because?
No, sir, not yet.
On the flip, go ahead.
You can go, Brian.
Okay. On the flip side of this, not that it makes it right, but does it show that the public is getting fed up with these sex trafficking cases?
I hope so. We've been working very hard to raise awareness here in West Alabama. We teach in schools. We have age-appropriate lesson plans from kindergartners all the way through high schoolers. We talk to civic groups. We talk to church groups, anybody who wants to learn about it and how they can protect their children. We do our very best in education as well as in investigative prevention and investigating incidents that happen. And so we hope that members of the public are getting the message, because that is our intent.
Here in West Alabama, we have the West Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force. What other resources do we have here to help catch these predators, to, assure the public that more is being done?
As part of the West Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force, I should say working alongside of us, we have 3 very, very good cybercrimes units here in West Alabama. They are cutting edge. They are very, very proactive in helping us with this. We're also an affiliate member with ICAC, the Internet Crimes Against Children. We are members of several different state task forces, as well as we are working on establishing contacts with several national task forces.
How do you think shows like To Catch a Predator or any of those things are adding to these social media trends?
I think they do, because I think the shows do not show the complexity of the investigation that went into it for that person to be sitting at the table, and it's not a simple operation, but it looks like it on TV, and so people see that on TV and think, hey, I can do that. They also see it on TikTok and Instagram and the other social media places, and they go, I'm smart enough to do that. I can talk to this person. And many people have already been approached by a predator, and in some cases have interacted with them just out of, I'm going to mess with this person, and then cut it off. And so when somebody else contacts them, they're like, hey, I can do this. And so I do think TV shows, because of the nature of them and the amount of time that they have to tell the story, can't show the complexity of the investigation.
I'm a viewer at home and I have a young daughter or a young son. You mentioned that social media is one of the main sources that these predators are reaching out to children. What other ways should I look out for?
That is the primary source of recruitment right now. Before social media, and I'm dating myself here, none of these folks can laugh at me. You met them at the mall. We've all heard about the white van. We've all heard about tying the string on the mirror. A lot of social media hoaxes that are out there. The way they do it is that device in your hand right there multiplies the number of people they can be in contact with at any given time, and it multiplies the number of places that they can have influence at the same time. When we deal with these predators, we oftentimes, very often, very high instance times, we find out it's not just the one victim. Once we start investigating the case, we find out there's multiple victims in other states, and we work with those law enforcement agencies in those states to help those victims and try to do it. So right now, the primary way they're doing it is through social media apps, and there are thousands out there. Any social media app, any app where you can have a two-way conversation, we're seeing these are starting on them. Not just your supposedly meet me accounts or places that people go for no strings attached type of action, but just on your regular social media apps. They're targeting our kids. Our kids unfortunately put a lot of pictures of themselves out there. They're able to look at those pictures and go, that's the age I want to talk to, and they'll pretend to be the age of the person that they are talking to. Here's the thing about kids. They're not very mature, and so they don't often recognize that the person that they're talking to is not their age, that person might not be who they think they're talking to.
What advice do you have to parents to prevent this? Because, you mentioned that, if something like this happens, to call local law enforcement. But at that point, maybe it's too late. So how do you advise parents to prevent the problem before it happens? What
Proactive parenting is what we like to say. Proactive parenting. you've got to know what your child is doing on their device. You own that device. If you buy an iPhone and you give it to your child and they're underage, you own that device, and you have the right to go on that device and see what that child is doing. But it has to be a part of a greater proactive parenting style to where you have open communications with your children. It also requires that you have difficult conversations with your children at a younger age. If somebody asks you that they should not be talking to you like this, and you should never take a picture of yourself like this and send it to somebody, that's not okay, because they're getting the opposite message from their friends.
There's some laws on the table right now that would, I think it's up to 13 years old. Before 13 years old, kids wouldn't be allowed to have certain social medias. Do you think that could help with this kind of problem?
I think it would give parents some tools, but we don't know until we try. It's an effort, and so anything that we're doing to try to make it better, I think, is a good thing.
Any other questions? Well, we appreciate y'all being here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unrelated to today, could I get an interview with you tomorrow morning if you're going to be at work about the task force partnership with you late police?
I can't say. Good job. Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't go into more detail. They are doing research into the data behind.
They don't have one.
No, sir. The grant that they are giving us for is sub-grantee.